Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today's lecture is on mastocytosis. Mastocytosis is a rare acquired condition that is characterized by too many mast cells in the skin and other tissue, as the name signifies. Bone marrow biopsy usually reveal an aberrant mast cells immunophenotype. There is a clonal mast cell expression expressing mutants in KIT. Clonal उसी वक्त होता है कि whenever we are suspecting a tumor. जिस तरह से हिस्टोसाइटोसिस में there was a clonal proliferation, but most of the histocystoses were reactive. Similar is the case in mastocytosis as well. Although a distinction is usually made between a cutaneous and systemic mastocytosis, most adults with skin involvement will, after thorough investigation, be found to have some evidence of systemic disease. So, in other words, in adults, if you are suspecting mastocytosis, cutaneous mastocytosis, you must investigate for the systemic mastocytosis as well. And most of the times, it will be found that they will be having some evidence of systemic disease. Those with skin lesions who have not been investigated for systemic disease are said to have mastocytosis in the skin. Would not be called as cutaneous mastocytosis, but can be called as mastocytosis in the skin. About 10% of patients with proven systemic mastocytosis do not have skin lesions. So it is not necessary that patients of systemic mastocytosis always have skin lesions, but 90% of them will be having skin lesions and only 10% will be not having skin lesions. Most cases presenting to dermatology clinic will be cutaneous in children or systemic indolent in adults. So WHO classification of mastocytosis in 2008, with 2008 revision is, there are two types of mastocytosis, a cutaneous mastocytosis and systemic mastocytosis. Cutaneous mastocytosis include the maculopapular cutaneous mastocytosis. This is a new term, maculopapular cutaneous mastocytosis. In this term, both urticaria pigmentosa and telangiectasia macularis eruptiva perstans are included. Then the second type of cutaneous mastocytosis is mastocytoma, and the third is diffuse cutaneous mastocytosis. Among the systemic mastocytosis, the most common is indolent systemic mastocytosis. Then systemic mastocytosis with an associated clonal hematological non-mast cell disease. It's a broad term, but it is not a common one. Aggressive systemic mastocytosis, mast cell leukemia, mast cell sarcoma, and extracutaneous mastocytoma. Introduction and general description regarding the mastocytosis. First description of mastocytosis was made by Nettleship and Tay in 1869. Urticaria pigmentosa was used by Sangster in 1878. So quite a long history of this terminology of urticaria pigmentosa. The term mastocytosis was proposed by Cesare to describe skin and systemic involvement in 1936. So there was a long gap since 1878 and 1936 in explaining what urticaria pigmentosa is actually urticaria pigmentosa. Distinguishing between cutaneous and systemic mastocytosis depends upon the bone marrow biopsy and blood tryptase measurement. So remember these two investigations, the blood tryptase and bone marrow biopsy. If you have not done these investigations in cutaneous mastocytosis, you will say it as mastocytosis in the skin. And it is said that in adults, most of the cutaneous mastocytosis have some systemic manifestation. The term mastocytosis in skin can be used when patients present with skin lesion but have not been investigated for systemic disease, that is, adult who does not want a bone marrow biopsy or has a low blood tryptase levels. Etiopathogenesis. The symptoms of mastocytosis are primarily due to mast cell mediated release. Activation of KIT enhances survival and migration of tissue mast cells. About 90% of adults with systemic mastocytosis have this mutation. So this mutation enhances the survival and migration of mast cells. There is no clear phenotype and genotype correlation or relationship between familial versus spontaneous disease. KIT is also relevant to the development of myeloproliferative and myelodysplastic disorders in mastocytosis and hyperpigmentation that often accompanies urticaria pigmentosa. So this KIT activation or KIT mutation is important in mast cell or mastocytosis. Population estimates suggest a lifetime prevalence of 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 30,000. Age involvement is bimodal. Most childhood cases are in first 2 years, and if occur in adult, then they would be from third to sixth decade. No gender difference. Most reported cases are in white people, and familial cases are usually autosomal dominant. Pathology. In skin, mast cell numbers are increased in the dermis in all type of mastocytosis. Mast cells are usually oval or spindle shaped with granules that stain metachromatically, means that there are two different stains or different stains with toluidine blue. Mast cells infiltrates are predominantly found around the blood vessels and skin appendages. The mast cells, as I will show you the picture, among the picture, are described as fried egg appearance. A careful technique when taking the skin biopsy to minimize the traumatic degranulation is injecting local anesthesia around the lesions rather than into the lesion. So with this technique, you can yield higher number of mast cells in the skin biopsy. So this is a different technique you should remember whenever you are taking a biopsy of a suspected case of mastocytosis. Then rather than injecting directly into the lesion, inject in the periphery. Bone marrow involvement typically presents with focal aggregates of mast cells in the biopsy, although infiltrate may be diffuse and spindle shaped. So this is how a classical urticaria pigmentosa skin biopsy would look like. This is a thinned epidermis, and the dermis is almost occupied by nests of mast cells. So the mast cells are described as fried egg appearance. There is a central nucleus and there is peripheral rim of cytoplasm, eosinophilic cytoplasm, just like the egg yolk and white of an egg. Eosinophils are also present. A common subtype of urticaria. Sorry for the interruption. I hope you can all see and listen to me. Slide आ रही है आपको
yes
नजर?
sir. जी सर.
जी सर,
जी
लेकिन
सर.
Okay.
Yes,
लेकिन
sir,
सर प्लीज हिस्टोपैथोलॉजी रिपीट कर दें, वो
repeat
पीछे
कर
मिस
दें.
हो गई.
Histopathology. This was the first
पिछली वाली
slide of
स्लाइड
Sir, last slide.
सर, लास्ट स्लाइड, ये वाली स्लाइड.
ये वाली ना? So this is the classical
जी
picture
सर, ये
of
रिपीट.
mastocytosis, in which you can see a thin stretched out epidermis, and the dermis is filled with mast cells, which are described as the cells with fried egg appearance. Thus, there is a central round nucleus and surrounding rim of eosinophilic cytoplasm, just like the yolk and white of an egg. This is a bullous form. I am audible?
Yes sir. Yes sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is the second histopathology slide. I was telling about this slide that this is a bullous urticaria pigmentosa, in which you can see a subepidermal vesicle or blister, and underlying which there is diffuse infiltration of cells which are mainly mast cells. So you can make a histological diagnosis of mast cells, but you have to confirm it by special stain. One of the stain is chloroacetate esterase, which stain these mast cells granules. Then there is another type of cutaneous mastocytosis, which comes under the maculopapular mastocytosis, and this is telangiectasia macularis eruptiva persistens. Clinically, this will present only as telangiectatic macules, as the name signifies. Histologically, the changes are quite subtle. There are increased number of mast cells surrounding the blood vessels. As shown in urticaria pigmentosa, there will not be sheets of mast cells like this and like this. Rather than there will be limited number of mast cells surrounding the blood vessels. Otherwise, these mast cells will be having all the characteristics of the mast cells and with spatial stains. The most typical immunohistochemistry stain for mast cells is CD117. Just remember this. But in addition to this, the mast cell may express CD25 and CD2. CD2 is a pan T cell marker, but CD117 is the most important stain. Mastocytoma usually is composed of tightly packed mast cells in the upper dermis extending into the subcutaneous fat. This is the typical fried egg appearance of mast cells you can see in this mastocytoma. This kind of appearance is not seen in any other inflammatory cells. For example, a lymphocyte will have a nucleus like this, but will not have a cytoplasm like this. A histocyte will have a cytoplasm like this, but will not have a nucleus like this. In histocyte, there is a larger and vesicular nucleus. Eosinophil is obviously having an eosinophilic cytoplasm and bilobed nucleus. Neutrophil does not have any significant cytoplasm and have a tetra or quadra lobe nucleus. Plasma cells will have a nucleus like this, but all the cytoplasm will be on one side, nucleus will be on one side. So this kind of appearance, that is a typical central nucleus and surrounding eosinophilic cytoplasm, just like a fried egg, is typically seen in mast cells. Urticaria pigmentosa. This is the commonest pattern of cutaneous mastocytosis in both adults and in children. Mostly develop in first year of life in 84% of the children affected. And adult disease is between 20 to 40 years. Clinically, it is characterized by numerous reddish-brown or pale monomorphic papules, maculopapules or plaques or nodules that appear in symmetrical distribution anywhere on the body except the palm and soles. The highest concentration is on trunk and thighs. So the color is reddish, brownish macules or nodules, just like this. Closer view will say show a little pigmentation as well. This is an adult onset. Again, dark macules and papules on the trunk. So always remember pigmented orange-brown macule or papules on the body that you have to consider the diagnosis of urticaria. The lesions urticate when within minutes of gentle rubbing. This is the Darrier sign and subside within an hour. However, Darrier sign is not always demonstrable, especially in adult form, and is not 100% specific for mastocytosis as it has been described also in juvenile xanthogranuloma and acute lymphoblastic leukemia of the neonates. Lesions may blister in infancy or childhood, or this may be the presenting feature, but they heal without scarring. So, occurrence of blisters or formation of blisters in urticaria pigmentosa is not an unusual finding. Blistering can occur and usually heal without scarring. Bullous mastocytosis is not a specific clinical pattern. It is often seen in infants with mastocytomas and diffuse cutaneous mastocytosis due to intense subepidermal edema resulting from mast cell degranulation. This kind of subepidermal blistering due to subepidermal edema is also seen in Sweet syndrome. Flushing occurs in 50% of patients. Alcohol intolerance and pruritus is slightly less. Other symptoms that may include in urticaria pigmentosa are heat or cold intolerance, recurrent diarrhea, acid dyspepsia, and urinary frequency. So, presence of these symptoms does not mean that the patient is having systemic mastocytosis. These are the symptoms which occur because of mast cell degranulation and release of mast cell mediators. Depression and headache are common. Wheezing is often quoted. Syncope is usually present as a feature of anaphylaxis. Proportion of adults with skin disease who have indolent systemic mastocytosis may be as high as 90 to 95%. So, as I've already told you that only 10% of systemic mastocytosis will not involve the skin. So, almost 90% of patients with indolent systemic mastocytosis will present with skin lesions. Up to 95% of adults with maculopapular cutaneous mastocytosis have evidence of clonal mast cell disease. Clearance or fading of urticaria pigmentosa was observed in 12 out of 106 adult patients, followed for 12 to 20 years. So usually urticaria pigmentosa gets cleared, but it takes a lot of time. In children, it also takes about 10 to 12 years for the mastocytosis to resolve. Then telangiectasia macularis eruptiva persistens, characterized by fixed erythema, may rarely be predominant clinical feature. Patients are usually adults presenting with persistent red macules that may or may not show obvious telangiectasia, especially on the trunk, which flush but do not urticate on rubbing. Mast cells may be seen on skin biopsy, but they are not numerous. Tend to be persistent and unresponsive to treatment. That's why it's called as persistence. Then the third type of cutaneous mastocytosis is mastocytoma. As the name signifies, it is a solitary red, pink, or yellowish nodule or plaque in infancy or early childhood, measuring 3 to 4 centimeter in diameter. If multiple, the lesions can be difficult to distinguish from nodular urticaria pigmentosa, because if they are multiple, then it will be difficult to call it as mastocytoma. They tend to blister if rubbed, especially in napkin areas of infants. An occasional attack of flushing can be induced. So multiple mastocytoma will always be confused with urticaria pigmentosa. Nearly all mastocytomas involute over the first few years of childhood. That is how a mastocytoma will look like. Face and trunk are common sites. Usually, such lesions would not urticate on rubbing. Then the fourth type of cutaneous mastocytosis is diffuse cutaneous mastocytosis. It is the most rare form, and the mast cell infiltrate the entire skin diffusely, usually present in neonatal period. Skin will be a doughy consistency, but may be smooth. So the skin will not be thin and cannot be easily picked up because of the presence of mast cells throughout the skin. The skin will have a doughy consistency. जैसे कि आटा गीला आटा. Skin color may be normal or almost red. Pigmentation usually absent. Blistering often minor. Patients with this type of mastocytosis are at the risk of systemic disease and severe complications like anaphylaxis and diarrhea, but often resolve spontaneously as in other type of childhood disease. Now we are coming to the systemic mastocytosis. Systemic mastocytosis is diagnosed on the basis of WHO criteria, finding one major or one minor or three minor criteria on skin marrow biopsy. So the most important criteria, as I have told you before, in diagnosing a systemic mastocytosis is a bone marrow biopsy and blood tryptase levels. So the first criteria is multifocal aggregates of at least 15 mast cells in bone marrow or in other organs. So multifocal means mast cell aggregates are present in addition to bone marrow in other body organs including the skin. If one major criteria is present, that is multifocal mast cells, then only one minor criteria is required. But if the major criteria is not present, then we have to have at least 3 of the 4 minor criteria. And what are the minor criteria? That is more than 25% of mast cell infiltrate are spindle shaped in bone marrow biopsy, or 25% of mast cells in bone marrow aspirate smear are immature or atypical. Activating mutations in KIT gene in bone marrow. Then co-expression of CD117 with CD2 and CD25 in bone marrow mast cells, blood or other tissue, but not including the skin. So the criteria is, in addition to CD117, CD2 and 25 should also be present. Then the fourth criteria is, that serum tryptase should be higher than 20 microgram per liter. So these are few minor criteria, 4 minor criteria for diagnosis of systemic mastocytosis. So when will we call a patient having systemic mastocytosis? If a patient fulfill WHO criteria, patient have symptoms like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, palpitation, hypotension, syncope, headache, dyspnea, wheezing, and sometimes fatigue and brain forgiveness. These first three are GI symptoms: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Then palpitation, hypotension, and syncope because of decrease in blood pressure and tachycardia. Then headache, dyspnea, wheezing because of chest complications. Then fatigue and brain forgiveness. Bone pain, bone cyst, premature osteoporosis, osteosclerosis, and fractures should also prompt investigations. So the most common systemic mastocytosis is indolent systemic mastocytosis. Blood tryptase and urinary methylhistamine levels are useful markers for bone marrow involvement. Reasons of persistently raised blood tryptase in patients without skin lesions. So in addition to systemic mastocytosis, high serum tryptase levels are also seen in chronic myeloid leukemia, in myelodysplastic syndrome, in myeloproliferative neoplasms, eosinophilic and basophilic leukemias, in chronic urticarias, in atopic disorders, in renal failure. So this slide just means that high tryptase level is not always seen in urticaria pigmentosa, and other diseases may also have high blood tryptase levels. Although there is a risk of progression of indolent systemic mastocytosis to systemic mastocytosis, there is no reliable marker to identify the patient which patient is at greater risk. Mast cell leukemia is more likely to present to hematologists rather than dermatologists, obviously, with change in peripheral blood picture and background of being unwell with lymphadenopathy and organomegaly. This is a term, monoclonal mast cell activation syndrome. Patients who show evidence of clonality on bone marrow biopsy but do not meet the criteria of systemic mastocytosis are said to have monoclonal mast cell activation syndrome. क्लोनलिटी है लेकिन अदर क्राइटेरिया mastocytosis के पूरे नहीं करता. These patients are risk of developing mastocytosis systemic subsequently. Mast cell activation syndrome is the one in which patient increasingly present with symptoms of mast cell mediator release in at least two body systems: skin, respiratory, GI or cardiovascular, who do not meet the criteria of mastocytosis. इसमें symptoms हैं, इसलिए हम syndrome कह रहे हैं, mast cell activation syndrome कह रहे हैं. इसमें सिर्फ क्लोनलिटी है, मतलब आपने लैब से प्रूव किया कि मास्ट सेल्स क्लोनल हैं, लेकिन सिम्टम्स नहीं है और क्राइटेरिया भी पूरे नहीं करता सिस्टेमिक मैस्टोसाइटोसिस के, जिसको कहेंगे मोनोक्लोनल मास्ट सेल एक्टिवेशन सिंड्रोम. और जिसमें सिम्टम्स हैं उसमें मास्ट सेल एक्टिवेशन सिंड्रोम के उसमें सिम्टम्स तो हैं लेकिन अदरवाइज क्राइटेरिया पूरे नहीं करता सिस्टेमिक मैस्टोसाइटोसिस. Respond to anti-mediator therapy. Known causes include IgA-mediated urticaria or non-IgA mediated autoimmune urticaria, physical urticarias, etc. The most common investigation of mastocytosis is skin biopsy. Taking history and examination for hepatosplenomegaly, full blood count and differential count, liver function, tryptase level. Bone marrow examination is not obligatory. in absence of other features such as anemia, leukocytosis, bone pain, hepatomegaly, and lymphadenopathy. Blood tryptase is a useful surrogate marker for bone marrow involvement, but not diagnostic of systemic disease without other features. So at least the level should be more than 20 gram per liter on 2 different occasions. Abdominal ultrasound may be informative in suspecting hepatosplenomegaly. Then bone densimetry or vitamin D levels should be requested to proven or systemic disease. General management. Most patients with cutaneous mastocytosis or indolent systemic mastocytosis will have excellent prognosis, particularly in children, and they should be provide reassurance, or their families should be provide reassurance about the nature and progress of the condition, that this is a self-healing or self-improving condition. The management hinges to avoid the triggers factors for mast cell degranulation, and with anti-mast cell mediator drugs, immunotherapy, and early detection of systemic disease. These are the potent mast cell degranulating stimuli which you have to tell the patients to avoid, like physical triggers, rubbing, heat and exertion, NSAIDs, general anesthesia, non-depolarizing muscle relaxants, etricurium, opiates like morphine and codeine, plasma volume expanders like dextran, anticholinergics like hyoscine, radiocontrast media, insect and snake venom, latex and other allergies, and alcohol intake. So there is a long list of mediators. This is one of the most important things which you should all know and tell the patients, especially during your examination. Up to 50% of adults and 20% of children experience one or more episode of anaphylaxis. So ephedrine auto-injectors should be prescribed to all adults with proven or systemic disease, and in children with widespread cutaneous mastocytosis. Oral histamines are helpful in milder attack of flushing or pruritic wheals without respiratory difficulty or hypotension. Fatal cardiovascular collapse during general anesthesia has been reported. Prophylactic corticosteroids and antihistamine before general anesthesia is usually given. So summary of management options for mastocytosis. Number 1, avoid the triggers. Treat systemic and skin symptoms due to mast cell mediator release by H1 antihistamines, updosing H2 antihistamines if there is hyperacidity as well, proton pump inhibitors, and sodium chromoglycate orally for bowel symptoms patients. Consider skin direct treatment for symptoms for improving the appearance of the lesions. That can be topical corticosteroids, topical 4% sodium chromoglycate, not available in Pakistan, then narrowband UVB therapy or PUVA therapy. Cytoreductive treatment for systemic mastocytosis with organ dysfunction or failure. So these are severe diseases treated by oral corticosteroids, interferon alpha, claritidine, and KIT tyrosine kinase inhibitors. There are different types. Complications like especially bone complications are treated with vitamin D and calcium supplements by phosphonate, hematological complications by chemotherapy protocols, anaphylaxis by ephedrine injections, auto injections. First line management is antihistamines and mainly non-sedating antihistamines. So itching and flushing is controlled by antihistamines. Ketotifen, or which is sodium chromoglycate inhibitor, are mast cell stabilizers and preferred by some patients, but is often less and is often sedating. H2 antihistamines are used specially for gastrointestinal symptoms like indigestion and diarrhea. Second line are mast cell stabilizers and anti-inflammatory drugs. Aspirin and other NSAIDs have been reported to ameliorate prostaglandin mediated, but must be induced with caution under cover of antihistamines with initial observation if there is history of intolerance. So photochemotherapy and phototherapy is second line drug. Topical corticosteroids already mentioned. Third line include all the drugs which I have mentioned in systemic disease, like interferon alpha, like tyrosine kinase inhibitors and claritine. Drug course and prognosis. Most mastocytomas resolve in childhood. 50% of children with urticaria pigmentosa clear by adolescence, means around 10 years. Prognosis in adult is difficult to ascertain due to obvious limitation of not having information on lifelong follow-up. However, spontaneously the clearing is seen in 10%. Major problem is anaphylaxis and osteoporosis. Prognosis of advanced mastocytosis with associated blood disorders will relate to associated hematological disorders, and management will be directed primarily towards it. So, in short, all the cutaneous mastocytosis, they are carrying good prognosis. Most of them are cutaneous. Most of the cutaneous mastocytosis are self-resolving, although it may take few years for the resolution to occur. Patients off and on present with symptoms of anaphylaxis and GI symptoms like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, syncope, headache, or hypotension and palpitations, wheezing, dyspnea. So such kind of symptoms would require therapy. Otherwise, the patient would not require any specific therapy. If the patient are symptomatic in cutaneous mastocytosis, then we usually give H1 antihistamine in higher doses. Sodium chromoglycate is not the only drug which is to be added. Once added, it should be added with antihistamines, and these drugs are usually sedative and are given in especially GI diseases. And same is the case with H2 antihistamines and proton pump inhibitors, which are given if the patient have GI symptoms. So if all the patient having cutaneous mastocytosis must be investigated for systemic disease. The basic investigation is blood tryptase levels. And if the blood tryptase levels are high, then the patient should go for bone marrow biopsy. And if bone marrow biopsy proves that it is it has systemic mastocytosis, then the patient will be labeled as having systemic mastocytosis. So this should be the normal course of event in case of a patient suspected and later diagnosed as having mastocytosis. Now I would welcome any questions from your side. No questions?
No, sir.
Pucho, Asmat?
No, sir.
Asmat
Sir,
want to
clinical
ask.
differentials the arteria pigmentosa and mastocytoma.
देखो, mastocytoma is classically solitary. Urticaria pigmentosa is definitely having multiple lesions. जो lesions होंगे ना अर्टिकेरिया पिगमेंटोजा में, वो मैक्युलर और पेपुलर और नोडुलर होंगे, लेकिन मेस्टोसाइटोमा ही नोडुलर ही होगा. अगर मल्टीपल मेस्टोसाइटोमास होंगे, then it would be really difficult to diagnose or differentiate it from अर्टिकेरिया पिगमेंटोसा. सिर्फ एक डिफरेंशियल हो सकता है कि in multiple mastocytomas the Darrier sign is usually not demonstrable, which is demonstrable in urticaria pigmentosa. ये एक हो सकता है डिफरेंस, अदरवाइज हिस्टोलॉजी में भी अर्टिकेरिया पिगमेंटोसा और मैस्टोसाइटोमा में कोई खास फर्क नहीं होगा।
थैंक
हाँ
यू
सिद्रा,
सर।
सर आपने मेंशन किया कि जब बायोप्सी हमने लेनी है तो उसको लीजन को इस तरीके से एनेस्थीसिया दें कि लीजन इन्फिल्ट्रेट ना हो, ताकि मास सेल मतलब उसका वो मुझे समझ नहीं आया
ये
कि मास सेल
ग्रेनुलेट ना हो,
डिग्रेनुलेट हो
मास सेल्स
जाएंगे।
टूटे ना। अगर
तो
आप बायोप्सी ऐसे लें, इंजेक्शन ऐसे लगाएं लिग्नोकेन का कि वो इंजेक्शन बजाते खुद लीजन के नीचे, सर हम आमतौर पे बायोप्सी लेते हैं तो हम लीजन के नीचे इंजेक्ट कर देते हैं। तो कहा ये जा रहा है कि आप लीजन के नीचे इंजेक्ट करने के बजाय अगर आप उसके साइड पे 3-4 जगह पे इंजेक्ट करें थोड़ा सा दूर, तो मास सेल्स डीग्रेनुलेट नहीं होंगे इन रिस्पॉन्स टू लिग्नोकेन, और जब आप बायोप्सी देखेंगे तो आपको सॉलिड मास सेल्स नजर आएंगे और आप ज्यादा अच्छा हिस्टोलॉजिकल डायग्नोसिस कर सकेंगे।
थैंक यू सर।
सर डेरियर और सूडो डेरियर साइन में क्या डिफरेंस है, कहीं पढ़ा?
मुझे सूडोडेरियर का नहीं पता, मैंने नहीं पढ़ा, अगर आपने पढ़ा है तो मुझे बता दीजिए।
सर मैंने भी कहीं पढ़ा था, इसलिए अब याद नहीं है।
मैंने मास सेल ये मैस्टोसाइटोसिस के चैप्टर में कहीं पे सूडोडेरियर साइन का जिक्र नहीं, और मैंने सुना नहीं
Yes.
कभी। तो अगर ऐसी बात है तो
और
नेट पे
सर
जरूर होगा, पढ़ लीजिए। तो
सर
जाहिर है
इसको जब हम
सूडोडेरियर,
डिमॉन्स्ट्रेट करें तो हम सर हम उस लियन के ऊपर रब करेंगे ना, जो भी
Yes.
पिगमेंटेड लियन होगा उसके ऊपर।
जो हाइपर पिगमेंटेड मैक्यूल या नोड्यूल होगा उस पे ही रब करेंगे आप।
जी सर, उस ठीक है सर, ठीक है सर, थैंक यू।
अच्छा, चलें फिर एंड करते हैं लेक्चर को। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू सर।